All right. Okay. So last time we talked about hola. That's not the language you're supposed to be speaking, Megan. What are you supposed to say? Come on. I'm waiting. One second. I have to think. I'm sure you're just thinking. Okay. And on that note, I will go ahead and start the warm-up. Find the explicit form of the sequence. All right, so I'm trying to figure out, this is the first term, this is the second term, this is the third term, this is the fourth term. So what is just like the explicit form, like the formula that would create all these things? Okay. And so first of all, what do you mean what language? Megan, what am I the teacher of? Okay. So first of all, with these numbers, I'm just noticing these numerators are alternating, negative, positive, negative, positive. So when that happens, I know that I have this like -1 to the some exponent, right, to the n. And we might need to do n plus 1 or n minus 1, but no, so this would work because the negative number should be first. So if I plug in 1 here, odd exponents, the negative will stay. Even exponents, the negative will cancel. So this is fine. Otherwise, in the numerator, I see that 4, 8, 16, 32. No, I don't speak Japanese. 4, 8, 16, 32 are all powers of 2. But if I just had 2 to the n, that wouldn't quite work because if I did 2 to the first power, that would not give me 4. 2 to the second power would not give me 8. So this is where we kind of talked about we have to shift our sequence a little bit. So instead of just 2 to the n, let's do 2 to the n plus 1. All right, so 2 to the 1 plus 1, 2 squared would make 4. 2 cubed would make 8. 2 to the fourth would make 16. So that's why we need that n plus 1 there. And the denominator, I just have 3, 5, 7, 9. Looks like the odd numbers, right? Starting at 3. So remember, the way that we think about even and odd numbers is that even numbers are always divisible by 2. And odd numbers are always just, like 1 more or 1 less than that. Or I guess an odd number more or less than that. So I'm going to start with 2n. I'm thinking about what I need to subtract or add. So the first number I plug in is 1. So 2 times 1 would give me 2, but I want that to be 3. So I would need to add 1. And I can see that would work with all these other ones too. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 plus 1, 5. 2 times 3 is 6, 6 plus 1, 7, etc. So this would be my explicit form. Right, so a lot of different pieces going on. But if you break it down individually and just consider them each individually, then it's not so bad. Okay, but it's just, there's a lot of little details to keep track of that you could get tripped up on. All right, number 2, find the sum indicated. So sigma we know means that we're talking about a series, which just means add a bunch of stuff together. Now this one uses I, that's fine. Remember, this letter down here could be I, J, K, M, N. It doesn't matter at all. All right. But what this means is this is the first number we plug in. So the first thing we'll plug in is 3. So 3 over 3 plus 1, 4. All right, and then we go to the next term, but we add it together because sigma tells us add stuff together. But now we'll plug in 4. So 4 over 4 plus 1, which is 5. And then now we'll plug in 5. So 5 over 5 plus 1, which is 6. Like Elemenopy. Elemenopy. Is that how they pronounce it? Elemenope. It's kind of a good one too. And since this is a 5 up here, then we stop after we plug in 5. That's what that means. This tells us how far to go. So this just says stop at 5. Okay. So then we have 3/4 plus 4/5. Let's see. 3/4 plus 4/5 plus 5/6. 5/6. I just have trouble there. If we, found the common denominator and everything, we'd get 143/60. It's the same as 4,898 factorial. What? I have no idea what you mean. I don't know if you're being serious or this is a joke or what, but I don't understand it. It's over my head. Okay, but again, the reason that we are adding these things together is because we're using sigma. Sigma represents a series. Oh, because I memorized the factorials. Oh, yeah, I remember now. I just didn't remember the specific number. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I have all the way up to 6 million factorial, memorized. So that's how that sum works. Okay, so let's go on to talk about some specific type of sequence and series, and that is arithmetic. All right, this is a term from geometry, which you confirmed to me yesterday that you perfectly remember. So that's awesome. What an arithmetic sequence is a sequence where the difference between each term is the same. Right, and the reason I underline this is because we'll have a formula that uses the letter D, and that D understandably stands for the difference between them. It's crazy. All right, so some examples. Right, this series is always adding 3, not Siri. I don't want to talk to you. Let's just throw my phone over there so it can't hear me. Right, plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, plus 3. So since it's adding 3 every time, that means this is an arithmetic sequence where that lowercase d is 3. And then, yeah, exactly, Megan. This one down here is always subtracting 2, subtracting 2, subtracting 2. So this is also an arithmetic sequence. But in this case, the difference is -2. Because it's being subtracted 2 each time. Right? I told you this stuff was easy. Right? You remember this from geometry. Come on. All right. So you probably didn't learn this. The nth term of an arithmetic sequence we can figure out by this formula. All right, this is the explicit form. The only thing you remember from geometry is SOHCAHTOA. Well, that's fair. That's a majority of what you need. So, that's okay. This is the explicit form for any arithmetic sequence. All right, it's just A1, which we know represents the first term. Right? This n and this n are the same thing, and then D we know represents the difference for this particular, for whatever particular arithmetic sequence we're talking about. All right, so this is nice. If we know we have an arithmetic sequence, we can build a formula to create it. Okay. So, for example, all right, looking at these terms, 26 to 23 to 20 to 17. Okay, I can pretty immediately see that my difference is -3 here. So what is the explicit form? Well, let's use that formula. So an equals a1, the first term is 26, plus n minus 1 times d. So n minus 1 times d, which is -3. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of simplifying. Let's go ahead and just distribute that -3. So -3n plus 3. So not 99. So 29 minus 3n. There's my explicit form. It's good to know. That's good to know for something that we're going to use in a minute. So again, first term, -3 comes from the difference. I think if I scroll down, yes. Okay, so slightly different. 2, 5, 8, 11. What is A25? So A25 represents the 25th term. Right? So we have the first 4 terms, but now I want to know 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, blah, 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 blah. Element OP. Okay, but maybe, now it probably wouldn't be crazy difficult to do with this one because it's a relatively simple arithmetic sequence, but I still don't want to list out 25 numbers to figure that out. So if I had, remember, the explicit form, if I have the explicit form of a sequence, then I can just plug in 25, and that would give me the 25th term. So let's just create the explicit form. So A1, which is 2, plus n minus 1, which times d. Well, d in this case, we can see the jump here is adding 3. So a lot of 3 action here. I guess I wasn't very creative whenever I was making this. All right, so I have this. And now I can figure out the 25th one by just plugging in 25 for n. So 25 minus 1 is 24 times 3. (24 times 3 is 72. 72 plus 2 is 74. So this first step is just, even though the problem doesn't ask it, find the explicit form, right? Like the formula, and then use it to find A25, right? The 25th term. Because sometimes, I mean, again, this one's really easy. Could you also do 3n minus 1? Yes, because that's what... if you took this, right, you'd have 2 plus 3n minus 3, which is the same thing as 3n minus 1. So yeah, that works for this one. But, so I know I went through and simplified it up here. I didn't do that down here. We could have. It was just, since the problem didn't actually ask like what is the simplified explicit form, then I just didn't go through the step of simplifying. I just went ahead and said, well, I'll just plug in 25. But you're right, it would end up being 3n minus 1 for sure. All right. A partial sum of a finite arithmetic sequence. So we have this formula. Okay, S surprisingly stands for sum. Who would have guessed? Not me. A1 is still the first term. AN is just whatever the nth term is. Okay, so these n's are all the same thing. Right, and this is always divided by 2. That divided by 2 will not change. So what does this do? It adds up all of the first n terms of a sequence. Okay, so this is basically like a series. Okay, kind of like a sum where we're adding up terms. Okay, so what is the 27th partial sum of the sequence? All right. So my goal is to find S27, right? The 27th partial sum. So that formula is 27 over 2 times A1. We know A1 is 4 plus A27. So the issue is, right now, I just don't know what A27 is. Right? But I can figure it out because, like on our last problems, we just figured out how to write the formula, write the explicit form. Once I have the explicit form, then I can find the 27th term. Once I have the 27th term, I can plug it into this formula up here. Okay, so let's go through and look. Okay, this is pretty clearly just adding 2 each time. So the difference here is positive 2. I'll use, so that it's adding 2 every time, so this is arithmetic. So that formula for the explicit form is AN equals the first term plus n minus 1 times the difference. We're trying to figure out A27. So I'll go ahead and plug in 27. Again, right here, we could go through and simplify this one if you want to. I'm just not going to, because we really care about just what happens when we plug in 27. 27 minus 1 is 26 times 2. So that's 52 plus 4, 56. Okay. So now I can just take this and plug it into my equation. 27 halves. 4 plus 56. Four plus 56 is 60. 60 divided by 2 is 30. So this just turns into 27 times 30. S7, 8, 10. Let's see. Yeah, 3 times 20 is 60. So 600. 7 times 30, 210. So 600, 210, 810. Yeah. So 810. Okay, so now to connect this back to our summation notation, another way we can think about a partial sum, right, or a sum, remember we can write using this sigma. So if we say start by plugging in 1 and stop after you plug in 27 of our an of our formula here, 4 plus n minus 1 times 2, right, which this is the formula, this represents this sequence, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So if I took all these and I added them up from 1 to 27, all those terms, I would get 8, 10. Right? Same thing. So just trying to really instill that this sigma, it looks weird, it's different, but all this sigma means is just add stuff together. Okay, add up a bunch of stuff here. And so luckily for us, we have this formula that'll do it for us. Otherwise, we would have to sit here and add up what's 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10 plus 12 plus 14 plus 16 plus 18 plus 20 plus 22, all the way up to the 27th term. You're adding 27 things together yourself, and that sucks. So it's really awesome that we have this cool formula. And I heard a bunch of you guys say it was cool, so that's the only reason that I called it cool then. You know, I heard you said it. It was said. Trust me. Just trust. So cool. Thank you, Matt. I knew it. I knew it the whole time. I have like 0 viewers. I haven't looked. Should I look? Two. Tough times. Well, I don't know. Well, that's weird. I don't know how it works because like if you click on that little button at the top right of the chat, it's like a person button. It says users in chat. Like it says, you know, there's more people here. I don't know if that number is supposed to coincide with the numbers watching now. Does anybody know Twitch better than I do on the difference between that? How does it recognize that there's people in the chat but not people watching? That seems strange. I don't know. Also, I think you can change your setting that even if you are watching the stream, that you won't show up whenever it, like on that list of users, that your name won't show up there. So, I don't know. I really don't know, but I don't care. I'm really just here to talk to Megan and Matt every day. Ted Bundy, you know, pops in every now and then with a good comment. That's not true. There are several people. Several people will say stuff here and then, but you guys are definitely the most consistent. Dynamic duo. No, that's why I'm here. But analysis videos are also my most watched videos on YouTube. When I look at the views for YouTube, I mean, not like it's a ton, but it always has the most ones. So I guess that what that tells me is more people in analysis just don't watch it live. They watch the YouTube videos after. If you typed in the chat earlier, then you are in chat, but viewers are the active people watching. Interesting. Well, wait a minute. That still doesn't make sense. Like, what do you mean typed in the chat earlier? Like at any point before or at any point today? Because the users in the chat still changes as well. Like if you look at the users, there's more people than it says viewers, but it's not like those people have commented in the chat earlier today. I don't know. Price Chopper has hint of lime chips. Were you just there? Did you pick me up a bunch? You didn't go, but you just called up and asked them? Or did your mom tell you or something? Source from a friend. All right. Last time I went to Hy-Vee, they had them. But might have to stock up again soon. And by soon, I mean 11 minutes after I purchased them. Because when I buy snacks, they go. They're gone. So our goal is S19, the 19th partial sum. Right, so that's 19 over 2 times A1, which is 7, plus A19, which we don't know yet. Right? Hy-Vee's crazy. It hasn't been crazy when I've gone. At least like busy. But I mean, I don't go to the same Hy-Vee as you, so I don't know. Maybe it's different. Right, looking at these, this is adding 6 each time. So let's create the explicit form because we need to figure out what is A19. So the explicit form formula is the first term plus n minus 1 times d, so times 6. We could simplify, it's not necessary. Let's just go ahead and figure out what do we get when we plug in 19. 18 times 6. So 18 times 6, that'd be 60 plus 48, 108. 108 plus 7, 115. We'll use that in our formula. So now I have everything I need. Seven plus 115, 122. 122 over 2 would be 61. Uh, 19 times 61. I'm too lazy. I don't want to do any more mental math. 1,159. So if you added up the first 19 terms of the sequence, you would get 1,159. And again, we could, just so we start getting used to it, we can use sigma notation to say, hey, go from the first term, n equals 1, all the way up to the 19th term. And sigma says add all those things together for, what was the formula? 7 plus n minus 1 times 6. If you added all those up, you get 1159. Okay, so really this thing and S19, they mean the same thing.